Welcome to the AI Applied podcast. Guys, today we want to talk about what is the current situation with OpenAI. They've made a bunch of pivots, they've shut down a bunch of major products, and it feels like they're a little bit on this kind of refocus mode. Now, as someone that has basically used ChatGPT as my primary AI chat model for the last 3 years, there's some things that I'm actually using instead of it today, but I
Mhm.
don't think that ChatGPT and OpenAI are so far gone that they can't make a solid comeback and really keep their market dominance. And personally, I'm rooting for them. I really like ChatGPT. I like a lot of the
Yep.
things they've done. They've been the OG in the market. Kicking this over to you, Connor. What are some of, so I mean, the three biggest things, or I guess the biggest one is that they're completely shutting down Sora, their video model. Talk to us a little bit about why and what's going on.
Yeah, these are business decisions, and we really applaud them. And I will say that Jaden, do you remember our last episode when we were just like Claude standing, and we were just like screaming about how everybody should be using Claude? So this is the thing, guys. Like, first of all, with OpenAI, I will never ever count them out. They ruled the planet with, I mean, first of all, GPT 3.5, obviously, but then GPT 4 was the model for, I mean, over a year. And then everybody else sort of like started to catch up. But here's the thing about OpenAI. First of all, never ever bet against them,
Yeah.
because the reason that they were, I don't know about falling down, but their model is not as good as Gemini and Claude right now. Is just they were just losing focus. I think they had this idea that they were going to be the next Google or something like that. They launched Sora as an app. I never liked it. I just didn't understand it. The whole point about, like, if I'm watching short form social media, which I don't do a lot, but the stuff that I love is like humans doing crazy things. I'm like, that's worth 5 million views, because like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. Whereas if you can just create anything, it's like a Twilight Zone episode where you can make every wish come true, and then all of a sudden nothing has meaning anymore. And that's really how I felt about Sora as a standalone app. I just didn't get it. And I did get like where Gemini was building these incredible world building things, because it feels like, as we had Logan Kilpatrick on a lot of times actually from Google, Jaden, and the idea that he was talking about is like, he's like, this is all becoming one big thing. It's like doing this for, there's like an end in mind, where like it has to
Yep.
understand the world so it can do this and so it can do this. And OpenAI felt different. OpenAI felt like it was trying to dive into a lot of things, into shopping. I didn't think that there was a good product market fit. And actually, Sam said that himself with the original plugins, where Sam eventually said, hey, it turns out people want ChatGPT in Travelocity and in Kayak and in all these other things. Not, they don't want to kind of come into ChatGPT and then have to do like open table inside ChatGPT.
Yep.
And then yet they kind of went back to that whole thing with like shopping. And I was just thinking, like, at the time, I don't know. But anyway, the thing though that has spurred all of this is simply, and this is just pretty straightforward, the OpenAI ChatGPT model is just not that good right now. And I want to have one caveat before I turn it back to you, Jaden. But so first of all, I've had like now two incidents in the last week where I've just asked ChatGPT for a question, and it just used its old training data, which is mind-blowingly obnoxious, because the whole point about connected to the internet is that it can give you a real answer about what something means or something. And Jaden, the problem is that like we kind of created this problem because we're like, just don't like pick the model for us, but it often picks dumb models because it's expensive. And so it doesn't do a good job discerning when it needs a bigger model, I don't think.
Yep.
However, let me kind of give this quick caveat, Jaden, is that we love Ethan Malik. If you're not following Ethan Malik, the Wharton professor, he's an absolute go-to. Everything he posts, I think, is just absolutely genius. And what he said, Jaden, I'm just going to read it. I had Grok pull it up right before, on not that long ago, actually, just a few days ago, actually. He said GPT 5.4 Pro, which they recently released, I guess, is the only model in its class. For anything really hard and complex, I throw it into the maw with every bit of context I can think of. More often than not, something very useful comes out. I can't get the same results from Codex, which is their OpenAI's code thing, or Claude Code, or anything else. And by the way, in this in the follow-up, he clarifies he's thinking specifically about the Pro version, not GPT 5.4, not GPT 5.4 thinking. And he's like, nothing else comes close, not even Opus 4.6, nothing. And so I do want to say that it feels like, Jaden, interestingly, at the absolute cutting edge, that GPT actually may be leading the pack, which is very weird, but it feels like something for like rocket scientists or something. Anyway,
Yeah.
let me throw it back to you, because that's where we stand right now with OpenAI.
Okay. And I'll explain why OpenAI feels dumb it is not because their model is not as smart. And like Ethan correctly stated, their model is actually very good. The problem that OpenAI has made, and the difference that they have with Anthropic, is Anthropic is primarily a paid platform that you have to pay for, and they really push you towards, like, I couldn't get very much usage on something like Claude Code, for example, with or Claude Cowork without paying at least $100 for the max subscription. That's where they want to push you. They want to push you to
Right.
$100 a month. And to be honest, their tools are so great. I'm willing to do it. And most of their users are on like a $200 a month Claude Max subscription doing like Claude Code. That's kind of where their customer base is. So why is that important? If their users are paying $200 a month, they can afford to give them the absolute best cutting edge tool every single time to make it as smart as possible. What is OpenAI service? OpenAI services the entire world, and a ton of that traffic is free. So OpenAI has to have some really important conversations about, like, how do we give everybody free access to ChatGPT? And they're like, well, maybe we need to do ads. Maybe we need to. One of the biggest decisions they made in their product that I think you are annoyed by, I think most people are annoyed by, is they have their automatic model router, which basically, if they determine, oh, this is an easy question, they're going to try to do it from training data. They're going to try to not hit the internet, and they're going to try to not give it the best model. They don't even tell you what model they're using. They're
Right.
just like, oh, like, we'll answer it the best way possible. And the best way possible just happens to be like an old, outdated 4.0 model, right? And so I think that's where people are like, man, ChatGPT feels like it's dumb. And it's because it's not telling you what model it's using, but it is using an older model. Are they capable of giving the absolute best in class results with 5.4? They are, but they don't give it to you every time by default. And I think that's what makes people mad. And then if you go use Claude and they do give you the best by default, then people are like, well, Claude is smarter. So anyways, I think that's where the discrepancy lies.
Well, let me jump in just on that real
Yeah.
quick, Gene, because this is an important point. On the model picker, the reason I got so frustrated was because I was paying I was on the pro account, $200 a month for ChatGPT because I wanted like the cutting edge stuff. And even for me, it was routing it to dumber stuff. I'm like, really? Like, I'm your guy. Like, I'm the guy paying for this and the model router. Whereas Gemini, even in its fasting, Gemini like 3 or 3.1, whatever, is phenomenal. Like, its fast model I think it's even better than Claude. Like, its fast model is so fast and so smart, and just OpenAI wasn't there. Anyway, sorry, go on.
100%. So inside of ChatGPT itself, it has like a little drop down, and it's just by default on instant, which is going to be their old model. If you click configure, then you can go and pick, like, you can set it to thinking, the 5.4 model, which is what I recommend everybody does. They also have this like thinking effort. Okay, extended. I want extended thinking effort. Take 4 more seconds to come up with my answer and to make it a really good one. So even me, I'm just looking at my settings right now, and I'm
But
setting it
even
to.
that, Jaden, let me just sort of like point out on that too, because Jaden is sharing the screen and showing like standard extended. I'm with you. So on Claude, I always have it on 4.6 Opus. I pay a lot for it, but it's essentially my consultant. It's very, very cheap as opposed to sort of like hiring an actual, sort of like somebody from McKinsey or something like that. So I don't
Yeah.
mind paying that. The thing that's different between, like, let's call it the 3 giant labs, right? Between like Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic. Anthropic I use for almost everything. But if I need a fast, amazing answer, nothing beats Gemini. Gemini just blows
Mm,
everybody out of the water. And what I want from chat, I don't need it to think longer. I need it to know when to go to the internet. The whole problems that I've been
mm,
having is it hasn't checked its work. It's been using training data. Like, what did we connect it
yeah.
to the internet for if like so often it's going to actually just think that it can answer this question without checking its work? And it's happened multiple times of recently, and it's been driving me crazy.
Very fair. And also there's a plus button where if you hit the drop down, there's like web search. Why would you want to have to enable web search? Why
No,
would you have
come
to tell
on.
it to do the web search? Just do the web search.
Just do
Like,
the web search.
okay. So anyways, enough on begging on them. At least there is a way to get it done, but it's annoying. So I don't know why they do that. 2 things I'm stoked about. The first is OpenAI. In all of this, they're worried that Anthropic is eating their lunch, and so they are refocusing their whole company. One thing that they are dropping, OpenAI has abandoned yet another side quest, ChatGPT's erotic mode. I'm actually kind
Amen.
of stoked about that. It was kind
Me
of the
too.
main reason I got off of Grok, is like all these weird like anime girls that are popping up all over it. Like, no, I don't want to chat with your weird anime naughty girl thing, like sexy mode. I'm like, gross. I'm like, my kids are like asking to use the AI model to tell them a bedtime story. I'm like, get this crap out of here. So that was like my main deterrent from Grok. And I'm stoked that OpenAI, when they said they were going to like have this whole weird mode in there, I'm just happy. People just want this for productivity stuff. I'm sure there's 100 open source websites in the world where you can do all the weird things I just don't want to embed it into my like daily productivity app. So yeah, that's where I'm stoked about that for. The second thing that we mentioned earlier is that OpenAI is shutting down their Sora app. Guys, this is actually
Mhm.
a really massive deal, like a big, big deal. Why are they doing that, right? Like, here's the big question. They were too kind of all over the place with it. They just had $1 billion deal with Disney that they canceled. So actually, I guess it saves them $1 billion right off the bat because they don't have to pay Disney $1 billion to incorporate their characters into the model. That was kind of what was going to happen. But I think this is uh, actually a business decision that makes a lot of sense based off of a statistic that SimilarWeb recently posted, where they basically showed that internet or that video traffic for different
Mhm.
video generation models, the number one model, if you go back into January, February, March, April, May last year was OpenAI's Sora. It had about 50% of the entire market, closely behind like Kling AI, and then there was, I think, like some other ones combined. So, anyways, it was basically dominated, and you basically see since May last year, it dropped off a cliff, and it's now sitting at maybe 10% of internet traffic. So, I think they had this product that seemed really hot for a moment, and then is just kind of shriveled from 50% of the market share to 10%. And I guess what's really taken over the market share because Google has um, VO3. I don't know why VO3 isn't really showing up on
Yeah,
this.
it's strange.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it's really Grok Imagine, I guess, that is
Mhm.
taken up a lot of that. So, anyways, it just feels like they lost a lot of market share on that one particular tool, and so they're just gonna can it. It costs them. It's insanely expensive, right?
Insanely.
Like insane to process all of that. And I think they also see like if they want to scale up data centers, well, probably the easiest thing they could do is just cut out the whole video model stuff. They save so much compute and they can scale their actual product
Also,
faster.
and
So,
think about where you wanna redeploy that compute, right, Jaden? And
yep.
I'll close with this before I can give it to you to close, but, like think about what we need these models for, right? How many people are using it for video? It's just goofy, it's fun. People can say like, "Oh, well, it's gonna be this or this," but, like, we don't need to become Hollywood directors. Like, what we need is enterprise grade stuff and help people smarter to sort of, like, drive product or have the best, usage of an API into something where it's just gonna, like, drive your product better. Like, that's where Gemini has focused, that's where Claude has focused, and OpenAI, I feel like, was just getting distracted from all this, and now all of a sudden, like, if like let's say if you use like 100 tokens for a video and now you only have to use sort of like 4 tokens, these are not real numbers, but like 4 to just have a great answer for enterprise, and yet that enterprise answer is going to be worth $100,000 to to an organization, whereas the video doesn't do anything. And I think that they just like misunderstood where the market was going. I think they just had so much infinite money and everything else. I love this. I love the refocus. I will also say, Jaden, before I pass over to you to close, that I posted about that on LinkedIn, and it was like an open letter to I'm sorry, yeah, an open letter to OpenAI just saying like, "Listen, we love you guys, but like I love that you're refocusing. Thank you for doing this." And I had somebody kind of like high up at OpenAI like write and be like, "Yes, totally. We are all on board with that as well, just FYI." So that's
Yeah.
a relief. We want to like you, OpenAI. We still love you. You're always going to be our people, but like this is the right move for them. Anyway.
100%. The last thing I'll bring up there is like if anyone does want to get a message to the higher ups at Google or Anthropic or OpenAI, please send Connor a DM on LinkedIn. He is our direct liaison, so we highly appreciate it.
Right, right, right.
Um, Guys, thanks so much for tuning into the podcast. If you haven't already, Connor has an incredible AI mindset course that I highly recommend everyone take to your organization. Take it yourself, great, but take it to your organization and get some of these massive improvement gains, some of these massive productivity gains that people are seeing inside of their organizations. Basically, what his course is doing, it's not like a YouTube tutorial where it's like, if you want to do XYZ thing, go click this little tutorial on YouTube to, I don't know, build an automation. Connor really shows you how to reframe your mindset, how you're thinking about AI, and how to actually change behavior so that everyone inside of your organization is on board and getting all of this productivity. It makes a massive impact. So there's a link in the description, but I highly recommend you bring this to your organization and have them roll this out in your department. It will be the best thing you ever do, and they will love you forever. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you all in the next episode.